Thoughts and prayers, the killing of our children and teachers. I say enough. As I watch the news, I realize a cycle of words. Yes, it goes like this. Thoughts and prayers, my condolences to the families. It will never happen again. Guns don't kill people. These phrases seem to be very dominant in our system after any mass killing in America. And I could go on and on. Are we really listening to ourselves? Have many of us lost the human dignity required for the preservation of young lives? According to Mother Jones, who tracks a lot of these killings, the website states that 3/4 of the guns obtained by mass murderers in the United States were done so legally. Therefore, if guns don't kill people, why do we have so many people with criminal intentions in the United States and they are getting guns? Let's not issue guns to individuals with history of criminality, hostility, and hate towards members of our society. Because if you give them these guns, what do you expect them to do? Fire in the air and rejoice? Or come to attack those they hate? Please check out Mother Jones's tabulation of mass shootings in the United States. It is a running spreadsheet that everyone in America must have access to. While some people in our society will continue to articulate that guns don't kill people, people do. Be real, be truthful about this situation. I never imagined in my wildest dreams that a child could be so mutilated to the extent that only DNA could identify them. In our love for humanity, how is this possible? Yes, it is possible because we have leaders who are opposing the implementations of laws that would restrict access to these weapons of mass destruction. We are not in a war zone, which brings me to the question, is America in a war with itself? The question can be answered with yes. We are in a war to some extent, a war of words without actions to save our children and teachers from the next mass killer. Now let's look at Australia, where in 1996, a lone gunman entered a space. He killed 35 people and injured 23. Within weeks, stricter laws were passed to ensure this would never happen again. There was action. There were words, and of course, these words were brought into action. Since then, no mass shooting has taken place. Meanwhile, in the United States, we classify ourselves as a world leader. And we talk about the rights to bear arms. But I'm sure the founding fathers were not Nostradamus, who could foresee the future from a one-pop gun to a gun that can fire roughly 100 rounds per 50 seconds. Yes, many of our leaders and gun manufacturers continue to ignore the call to act to save our children based on the need for power and money. They have advocates in Washington talking about this, and I can't understand certain things, how someone could choose guns over life. I can't understand, based on moral obligation, why our politicians are not doing the job to safeguard our children. Children are not allowed to read various textbooks in schools, right? Teachers are not allowed to talk about various subjects. Another right. But still, a teenager is allowed the freedom to buy a gun when he can't even vote or buy alcohol. How ridiculous this is. Many of our leaders have lost the moral obligation to protect our children and our teachers and people in their everyday lives, and that's a travesty to humanity, and that will remain on your legacy forever. Yes, we have computer guidelines on various equipment. For example, VR headsets. Manufacturers provide guidelines on the age requirements for using these equipment. Some of these equipment can't be used without being operationalized by parents. That is, they give their approval. Many parents realize that based on the company's obligation to protect their children from inappropriate content, they can sue. Yes, they have sued and some have won their cases. Yes, it is time to start suing these manufacturers who continue to issue weapons to distributors who will then sell them to individuals who are not competent enough to handle a gun. And I'm talking about also mental competence. Yes, Remington was sued by the Sandy Hook survivors for over $70 million. That cannot take back that child, but that should be a message for other individuals who continue down that road. For an individual to become a pilot, or a commercial pilot that is, that individual must be 18 years old, must be qualified with a commercial license. He or she must pass the FAA medical test. Of course, he or she must have at least over 250 hours of flying time and pass other requirements. Yes, a plane in the wrong hands can be a weapon of mass destruction too, as seen in 9/11. Guns in the wrong hands create misery for generations to come. But yet, it can be easily obtained just by exchanging maybe an ID and getting a gun at the same time. Okay, let's have a birthday celebration, and what I'm going to do? Buy 2 guns. Don't we see something is wrong with that? It's not about a job, it's about getting 2 guns and you're unemployed. Come on. If our politicians are unwilling to put up legislation to stop the killing of our nation's children and teachers, then it is time for greater investment for the protection of life that goes beyond the womb. For example, all schools must be equipped with advanced facial recognition cameras that can alert the response team if an unauthorized person comes into the school. This should be supported with remote monitoring, of course. However, as you put these systems in, they must be maintained and checked consistently to be able to do the job they are designed to do. The implementation of AI robots must also be considered, as they can be used to patrol points on the school compound and also deter threats or possible intruders if they come on the compound. Design of schools must also change to improve safety. If government is not willing to support the reduction of mass killings in our school by restricting weapons of mass destruction, then they need to consider a safe space for each classroom. This space should be able to prevent high caliber weapons from entering that space. However, the designing of schools for safety must be done collaboratively. A collaborative effort is needed since we can't always depend on law enforcement to make the right decision in saving our children. Yes, policymakers, the preservation of our children and teachers are important to us. Therefore, since you do not have the political will to implement stricter gun laws, then you must spend. Sad to say, you will be adding a cost to an issue that could have been resolved based on your moral obligation to the American people. Finally, let me say, families are broken. Members of our society are broken. Because if we had to reflect, have we done enough to ensure the safety of others? Have we done enough to advocate for the lives of others? Have we allowed our voices to be heard by those leaders who continue to move away from the fact of issuing and supporting that legislation that could reduce these guns from falling in the wrong hands? The reality is that it's a sad day in America when our politicians do not have the political will to save our children. It's a sad day when you realize that power and money comes over saving our children. It's a sad reality to know that our founding fathers never meant for citizens to have guns like these to just go in and shoot people that can fire 100 rounds or more in 50 seconds. They thought it was just a one pop. You put one bullet in, you put your gunpowder in, and you fired. They had no idea that the invention would have led to this, and you would have used your own contextual insight to create a massacre consistently of children and people in our society. It is indeed a sad time. I end this at this point in time.